Part 50. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 491. So he pretended to think for a moment, and then said, "Of course there are ways, but your highness must not let King Zhao and King Qin meet, otherwise it will be too late. And as long as they are still alive, there will always be a meeting one day in this battle to eliminate the Dragon Kingdom. Even if His Highness is not killed this time, he will definitely attack His Highness in the future. So for the current plan, Your Highness, you are the only one who can strike first and get rid of one of them. But King Zhao has unparalleled military power, and it is impossible to get rid of him, and it will only treat the symptoms but not the root cause. Even if King Zhao is gone, King Qin will still try his best to get rid of His Majesty in the future. So the best way is to get rid of King Qin directly, so as a result, all the benefits that Your Majesty just mentioned after King Qin killed His Highness have become benefits to His Highness. And even if Your Majesty knows that Your Highness has killed King Qin, he will conceal this matter. For the sake of the Tang dynasty and for the sake of successors, His Highness will naturally not be punished." After listening to Wei Zheng's suggestion, Li Jiancheng, Wang Gui and others fell into silence. After all, Wei Zheng's words contain too much information, and they have been impressed. In fact, long before Wei Zheng made this suggestion, the existence of Qin King Li Shimin posed a huge threat to Li Jiancheng and his confidants. They had always regarded Li Shimin as the biggest hidden danger on Li Jiancheng's road to becoming emperor. Everyone can see that although Li Jiancheng and Li Shimin have no open conflict, the competition between them is quite fierce. The civil and military officials in the court unconsciously began to take sides, but King Qin, who was magnanimous and sincere to others, was obviously more trusted by the officials than Li Jiancheng, who was deeply involved in the city. As a result, most of the civil and military officials in the court today are obedient to the prince, but are very indifferent to the prince. Under such circumstances, if hundreds of officials come together to remonstrate with Li Yuan and request that Li Shimin be appointed crown prince, Li Yuan will most likely be persuaded by the officials. Because of this, all other officials under him were full of hostility towards Li Shimin. It's just that in order to maintain his generous image, Li Jiancheng never mentioned this matter to anyone, so he could only be angry about it alone. Although Wang Gui and others felt threatened by Li Shimin, they did not dare to talk to Li Jiancheng because before Li Jiancheng expressed his dissatisfaction with King Qin, they were afraid that they would be regarded as inciting feelings between their brothers. So now that Wei Zheng has made this matter clear, Wang Gui and others are relieved, and Li Jiancheng no longer has to work hard to maintain his generous image. However, wanting to kill the king of Qin is not a trivial matter after all. If the officials and the people of the world know about it, even if Li Yuan intends to be partial, he will have to give in to the fishing boat and even remove himself as the prince. Moreover, King Qin was not like other ministers. He was always protected by guards, and there were Qin Shubao, Chen Yaojin, and others who were once heroes in Weigong village. It was not easy to kill him. If the assassination fails and Li Shimin escapes, then if Li Yuan knows this, he will punish himself at all costs and even kill himself. So what will happen then? Wei Zheng looked at Li Jiancheng and guessed that he was already attracted, but he was still a little hesitant, so he said, "Your Highness, there is no need to worry about this matter. As long as the design is proper, no one will know about it." Fei Lu reminds you, 3 things to read things, favorite, recommend. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 492. Wei Zheng paused and continued, "And if this matter is exposed, His Highness does not have to come forward. When the time comes, the subordinates will tell the emperor that this was his own idea and take all the responsibility. On my own, my subordinates are willing to devote themselves to the great cause of His Highness the Crown Prince." Li Jiancheng never expected that Ren Zheng would actually take the responsibility of assassinating King Qin on himself, and was willing to die for him, so he couldn't help but be touched. But at the same time, he had some doubts in his heart, wondering what Ren Zheng was trying to do. So Li Jiancheng frowned and asked Mr. Ren Zheng, "Why are you doing this? What good will it do you to die for Jiancheng?" Wei Zheng heard Li Jianquan's words and knew that if he couldn't give a reasonable reason, not only would Li Jiancheng not be able to will agree to his own suggestion, and it is very likely that his purpose will be exposed and he will be killed. Fortunately, he had already thought of the overall strategy before this, so he replied calmly, "His Royal Highness knows that I am just a powerless scholar, and my wish in this life is to leave my name in history. But as a scholar, unlike military generals who can rely on their martial arts to make achievements and fight for the country, it is not easy to leave a name in history. However, if I can sacrifice my own life in exchange for your Highness's immortal foundation, I will wait until His Highness inherits the throne. I will definitely not forget that I died for the sake of a generation of emperors. I believe that your historian will focus on recording Ren Zheng." Li Jiancheng did not expect that Ren Zheng was willing to take the blame for himself, and even did not hesitate to be killed. What he did was nothing more than Ren Zheng. It is a name left in history. He stared into Ren Zheng's eyes for a long time, full of confidence and without a trace of dodge, which made Li Jiancheng have no choice but to believe that he was telling the truth. After a long time, Li Jiancheng finally returned Wei Zheng's suggestion. He said to Wei Zheng, "In that case, do you know what Mr. Ren's plan will be?" When Feng Li, Wang Gui, and others heard that Jiancheng was determined to ask Ren Zheng, they all joined in. "Come over." At this time they expressed everyone's concerns because of Ren Zheng and gained Cheng's trust, which made everyone admire Ren Zheng very much. However, Ren Zheng did not talk about this matter in front of everyone. After all, this matter was of great importance. Even if everyone sitting here was Li Jianquan's confidant, for the sake of safety, the fewer people who knew about it, the better. Therefore, Ren Zheng leaned into Li Jianquan's ear and whispered his plan to Li Jiancheng, and Li Jiancheng nodded repeatedly, obviously very satisfied with the plan. Then Li Jiancheng ordered people to remove the banquet, everyone dispersed, and he hurriedly left the palace and walked to Li Shimon's Qin palace. According to the rules, only the prince among the princes can live in the East Palace within the palace, while the other princes must leave the palace when they reach adulthood and live in their own palaces outside the palace. 2/4 of an hour later, Li Jiancheng arrived at Li Shimon's house. When the brothers met, Li Shimon was a little confused about his eldest brother coming to find him in the middle of the night. After all, after his father ascended the throne, the two had some competition for the position of prince, and they had not seen each other in private for a long time. However, Li Jiancheng was his eldest brother after all, and he had become the prince. Li Shimon felt that there was no need to continue fighting with him, so he was very happy to see Li Jiancheng coming to him. To read the ununderlined version of the novel, please download Fei Lu Xiao. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 493. He thought Li Jiancheng had the same idea. Sure enough, Li Jiancheng sat in Prince Jin's palace for a while and then said, "Second brother, I don't know if you still remember. When you were a child, you would come to your elder brother almost every night and ask him to take you out to play. Now in the blink of an eye, so many years have passed since these things happened, and you, my second brother, have grown up so much, but it has been a long time since we had such a happy evening together when." Li Shimon heard Li Jianquan's words, his thoughts were instantly brought to when I was a child. I felt a warmth in my heart, and said with a smile, "Yes, how could I forget such happy days? I was still young at that time, and my father always asked me to read, practice martial arts, and study during the day, and I had no time to rest at all. I only have time to relax in the evening, so naturally I always pester my eldest brother to take me out to play. Such a simple chat between Li Jiancheng and Li Shimin unknowingly seemed to go back to the time when the two brothers were like brothers, and they felt for Ren in their hearts. There was some hesitation in the original plan. But when he looked at Li Shimin, he found that Li Shimin had grown up, big enough to compete with him for the position of prince, and even big enough to let others kill him. So at this moment, his heart hardened again, and he followed Ren Zheng's plan and said to Li Shimin's second brother, "You and I have almost never gone out to play together since we grew up. Especially, since my father ascended the throne, he has hardly seen or spoken to him. In 2 days, he will go south to conquer the Dragon Kingdom. With the strength of the Dragon Kingdom, I am afraid that this battle will be a stalemate. We may never have such an opportunity to play together again in the future. Now, since the moon is full today and you and I are relatively free, let's go out for a walk together and relive the good times." After listening to Li Jianquan's words, Li Shimin thought of the extremely powerful generals of the Dragon Kingdom and knew that this battle was inevitable. It takes a long time, which means there won't be such leisure time for a long time. Moreover, after the Dragon Kingdom is destroyed, many other princes in the south will also need to be eliminated one by one. After all these hostile forces are eliminated and the world is unified, the Tang dynasty will become the unequivocal king just like the Sui dynasty. When the time comes, as the eldest brother and the prince, he will inevitably have to share a lot of things for his father, and naturally there will be no time to accompany him. Therefore, tonight may be the last night for the two brothers to go out by candlelight. So Li Shimin didn't think much about it, and immediately said, "The eldest brother is willing to take time out of his busy schedule to accompany me. The younger brother is already grateful. Naturally, he will not refuse the eldest brother's invitation." So Li Jiancheng and Li Shimin immediately walked out of the Prince of Qin's mansion together, wandering around the streets of Chang'an. Although it was getting late, the streets of Chang'an were still crowded and very lively. Although Li Jiancheng and Li Shimin are princes, they have lived in Luoyang and Taiyuan for a long time and have never been to Chang'an. It is quite novel to walk around now. Not long after the two left, Chang Sunwuji came to the Prince of Qin's mansion to discuss something with Li Shimin. However, he learned that the Prince of Qin had just left the mansion to go out with the prince to play, and he suddenly felt a little uneasy. Chang Sunwuji knew that although Li Jiancheng had become the prince, he had always been very tolerant to King Qin. Filu reminds you, 3 things about reading, collecting and recommending. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 494. But he knew that Li Jiancheng must be very jealous of King Qin, and there must be some conspiracy behind his sudden visit to King Qin tonight. So he hurriedly found Liang Shitai and said, "Go find His Highness King Qin quickly and protect his safety." After listening to Chang Sunwuji's words, Liang Shitai immediately took the order with a pair of sledgehammers. Liang Shitai ranked 15th among the 18 heroes of the Sui and Tang dynasties. He was once the owner of Guohuizhuang. He used a pair of iron hammers, which were also one of the 8 hammers of the Sui and Tang dynasties. After Li Yuanba defeated Guohuizhuang with half a hammer, Liang Shitai was completely impressed by Li Yuanba's martial arts and became Li Yuanba's general. During Li Shimin's western expedition, because Li Yuan ordered Li Yuanba and Li Yuanji to send troops together, Li Yuanba was worried about his second brother's safety, so Liang Shitai followed Li Shimin to protect his safety. After Liang Shitai left, Chang Sunwuji still felt restless, so he hurriedly found Qin Kaiyan, Yu Qigong, Chen Yaojin and others to go with them to find Li Shimin. Li Jiancheng and Li Shimin were naturally unaware of everything that happened in Prince Qin's palace. The two brothers were strolling around in the busy city, chatting and laughing, and occasionally tasting the food on the street. It was as if they had returned to their childhood, and they were so happy with each other. However, this warm scene did not last long. The two of them unknowingly walked to a relatively dark and inaccessible alley, and suddenly a group of masked samurai armed with swords rushed out from both sides of the alley. These masked men, about 40 or 50 in number, rushed towards Li Jiancheng and Li Shimin with knives in their hands as soon as they appeared. They kept shouting "Avenge your majesty!" Kill and other words. When he heard the shouts of these people, Li Shimin's expression changed and he was surprised. They are the remnants of the Western princes. I didn't expect them to sneak into Chang'an. Li Jianquan's face darkened at this time and he shouted to Li Shimin's second brother, "Be careful." He led a dozen guards around him to move closer to Li Shimin. As the princes of Li Tang, Li Shimin, and Li Jiancheng led troops to fight all year round. Although their martial arts skills were not as good as those of freaks like Li Yuanba, they were by no means incompetent scribes. Moreover, each of them brought a dozen guards, and coupled with their martial arts skills, it was not easy for these masked men to assassinate Li Shimin. While Li Jiancheng ordered his guards to resist these masked men, he slowly fought while breaking through in the direction of Li Shimin. Li Shimin had always turned his back to Li Jiancheng, so he was not aware of it. However, even if he was aware of it, at this critical moment, Teo would definitely not be on guard against the elder brother who had just had a pleasant conversation with him. As for Li Shimin's guards, they don't care about this detail. In their hearts, Li Jiancheng is Li Shimin's eldest brother. Even if the two have conflicts, they will not do anything detrimental when they are fighting the enemy together. As Li Jiancheng gradually approached Li Shimin, he finally saw the opportunity and stabbed Li Shimin's heart from behind with a sword, and then stabbed it out from his chest. With a puff, Li Shimin suddenly felt a sharp pain in his chest. He was puzzled. The eldest brother was clearly behind him, so he was unprepared. How could someone attack him from behind? To read the ununderlined version of the novel, please download Fei Lu Xiao. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 495. Could it be that the eldest brother has already encountered something unexpected? With this thought, Li Shimin struggled to turn around, only to find that the sword that pierced his heart was held in the hand of his elder brother Li Jiancheng. At the same time, Li Shimin's guards were stunned by the scene before them. They never dreamed that at this time when foreign enemies invaded, His Highness the Crown Prince would kill the King of Qin first. When Li Shimin saw this scene, he immediately understood that all this was Li Jianquan's conspiracy. He came to him not to recall the good times of his childhood, but to design and kill him. Unfortunately, before he died, he was still lamenting the conflict he had with his eldest brother over the fight for the crown prince's position. He was about to take this opportunity to apologize to his eldest brother, but he didn't expect that it was a conspiracy from the beginning. It's just that he is already the king of Qin and will no longer compete with his eldest brother for the crown prince. Why does the eldest brother want to put himself to death? So Li Shimin opened his mouth with difficulty and said intermittently, "Brother, why are you doing this?" Li Jiancheng ignored Li Shimin's last words, but drew out his sword, kicked Li Shimin to the ground, and ordered the guards and masked men around him, said, "Kill them all, leave no one behind." Seeing the eldest brother's guards walking with the masked men, constantly hacking and killing his own guards, Li Shimin, who was already in his final moments, suddenly, his whole heart was filled with a feeling of regret. He had obviously given up the fight for the throne, but he didn't expect that his eldest brother would want to kill everyone. If he had known this, he should have followed Chang Sunwuji's advice and attacked first. When Chang Sunwuji learned that Li Yuan was planning to make Li Jiancheng his wife, he deduced that Li Jiancheng would not stop pursuing the competition with him because of this, and might even suppress him even more crazily. Even if he doesn't do anything to Li Shimin now, when Li Yuan dies and Li Jiancheng becomes his successor, he will definitely treat Li Shimin as a serious problem and try to get rid of him. Therefore, in order to save his life in the future and to become emperor, Chang Sunwuji suggested that Li Shimin take action first and get rid of Li Jiancheng secretly. However, because Li Shimin was kind-hearted and thought of brotherhood, he did not agree. He did not expect that Li Jiancheng would attack him so quickly. In this way, Li Shimin passed away with endless regret, and Li Jiancheng looked at the dead Li Shimin without any sense of happiness in his heart. His mood at the moment was a little regretful, a little excited, and a little worried. Thinking that he had killed his younger brother with his own hands, and that he had been chatting and laughing with him on the street just now, Li Jiancheng would inevitably have a trace of regret. Moreover, Li Shimin and his more than 20 guards have not all been silenced yet. If one of them escapes and tells his father Li Yuan about the matter, then he is likely to be punished, so he is full of worries. But he was more excited. As Ren Zheng said before, even if his father knew about it, he might not punish himself for the sake of the royal family's face and the continuation of the Tang dynasty. In this way, without Li Shimin's restraint, he will surely become the emperor smoothly, command the three armies to conquer the north and south, and build the Tang dynasty into the most prosperous and powerful dynasty. Thinking of this, Li Jiancheng smiled on his face. Filu reminds you, 3 things about reading, collecting and recommending. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 496. While Li Jiancheng was thinking alone, his guards had already killed all Li Shimin's guards together with the masked men. Just when Li Jiancheng was preparing to retreat, he suddenly heard a shout from the alley. His Royal Highness King Qin. Li Jiancheng looked for the voice and saw Liang Shitai rushing toward him with a pair of sledgehammers. Liang Shitai spent a lot of time looking for Li Shimin. He happened to hear shouts of killing coming from this dark and deserted alley, and wanted to take a look. Unexpectedly, he happened to see Li Jiancheng and his guards massacre the King of Qin's guards. The King of Qin, Li Shimin, had already fallen into a pool of blood. In such a situation, even a fool could guess what just happened. The problem is, not only is Liang Shitai not a fool, but to be able to become the owner of Guawi Manor, he must also be a man with great power and scheming, so when he saw the scene in front of him, without saying a word, he rushed towards the village with a pair of hammers. Come over. Li Jianben thought that he had just killed all of Li Shimin's personal guards, and had stabbed them one by one to ensure that no one knew about it. However, he did not expect that Liang Shitai would come out as soon as he killed those few personal guards. This Liang Shitai was Li Yuanba's pioneer. Li Jiancheng naturally recognized him and knew that he was very skilled in martial arts, so he was shocked when he saw him and hurriedly shouted to his men, kill him together, no one will be left alive. Li Jianchen's words, as soon as they landed, the guards of the East Palace immediately showed their excellent combat qualities. All the guards and masked men rushed forward without saying a word. However, as the owner of Guachawi Manor, Liang Shitai was also a junior super military general, and Li Jianchen's bodyguards were only third-level soldiers, and he himself was only a third-rate military general. Even if he was a top-level military officer, he was no match for Liang Shitai. Li Jiancheng saw that Liang Shitai had killed several guards with just a few gestures, and was coming towards him with a fierce look on his face. He knew that he was no match for him, so he had no choice but to get the guards to stop him and then fled back in embarrassment. Prince's Mansion. Liang Shitai originally wanted to capture Li Jiancheng to meet the Holy Emperor, expose Li Jianchen's evil deeds, and avenge His Highness King Qin, but he was stopped by Li Jianchen's guards and could only watch Li Jiancheng escape. Half a quarter of an hour later, Liang Shitai finally killed all the East Palace guards, but Li Jiancheng had already disappeared. Liang Shitai stood in the alley and thought for a moment. There were only 2 choices before him. One was to rush to the East Palace immediately, break through the East Palace defense with brute force, and capture Li Jiancheng. Another way is to take the body of His Majesty King Qin to see His Majesty himself, report the matter to His Majesty, and ask His Majesty to order the capture of Li Jiancheng. It is not difficult to choose between these two paths. Although it is true that Li Jiancheng killed Li Shimin, it remains to be seen whether he can defeat hundreds of East Palace guards if he chases him to the East Palace alone. The most important thing is that he was justified, but others, especially His Majesty, did not know about it. He broke into the palace at night and killed the East Palace guards with force. Li Jiancheng was very likely to call in a large army to kill him on the grounds of treason. Kill. Therefore, it is obviously not a good choice to capture Li Jiancheng directly. What's more, going to expose Li Jiancheng in front of His Majesty himself is not without evidence. At least there are witnesses. And this witness was Ren Zheng walking from the end of the alley at this time. To read the ununderlined version of the novel, please download Fei Lu Xiao. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 497. In fact, Liang Shitai was able to find Li Jiancheng's ambush location so quickly because of the guidance of Wei Zheng, that is, Ren Zheng. Otherwise, Chang'an City is so big and he would have searched street by himself. Even if he found it, it would be impossible to find it so quickly at dawn. So Liang Shitai picked up the body of King Qin Li Shimin and said gratefully to Wei Zheng, "Thank you, Mr. Ren, for showing me the way. Otherwise, if I missed Li Jiancheng at the last step, the cause of His Highness King Qin's death would have become a mystery." Wei Zheng heard this from Liang Shitai. Then he said with a smile, "I just can't bear to see Li Jiancheng killing his brothers." For the sake of his own great cause, he ignored the unity of the Tang dynasty and insisted on killing the king of Qin. It's a pity that although I oppose Li Jiancheng's killing of the king of Qin, but he was powerless to stop him. After all, his obsession was too deep. If I had objected, I would have left before His Highness the King of Qin. And even if I pointed out the way for the general, I was still a step too late and failed to save the King of Qin. Life, all these are Zheng's sins. Furthermore, even if I did not guide the general, the prince invited the King of Qin to travel with him, but the King of Qin was assassinated and died, and the prince was safe and sound. His Majesty and the officials could naturally guess that it was the prince who did it. I don't dare to take credit. When Liang Shitai saw that Ren Zheng had taken the responsibility on himself, he immediately felt a lot of affection for him, so he couldn't bear to make him sad because of it, so he persuaded him, "Sir, you don't have to say that. You are not the King of Qin. His Highness's behind-the-scenes ministers are already thinking about His Highness the King of Qin. It's not like Li Jiancheng's other staff who spend all their time thinking about how to plot against the King of Qin instead of thinking about how to make the Tang dynasty more powerful. Besides, if I don't have the guidance of Mr. If Li Jiancheng killed His Highness the King of Qin, there would be no witnesses. Even if everyone could guess that it was Li Jiancheng who did it, His Majesty might not do it and leave the Tang dynasty without a successor. So, although the King of Qin did not do what he did not kill the King of Qin. But being able to prevent Li Jiancheng from getting away with justice is still a great achievement. After Wei Zheng heard Liang Shitai's words, he said no more, and Liang Shitai also changed the subject and said to Wei Zheng, "Since Mr. Ren is no longer willing to be with that guy Li Jiancheng, why not come with me to meet with your Majesty?" "Sir, don't a Euro trademark T worry. Eat a Euro trademark S up to me to explain what Li Jiancheng did and reveal his true face. Sir, I only need to give you a testimony to prove that everything I said is true." But when Wei Zheng saw Liang Shitai's posture, he knew that the King of Qin would not give up when he took revenge, so he did not refuse. He immediately nodded and said, "That's very good. General, please lead the way." Liang Shitai saw that Wei Zheng agreed so readily. Feeling happy and not doubting that he was there, he turned around, held Li Shiman's body against his body, and took the lead towards the palace. Wei Zheng looked at Liang Shitai's back, his eyes narrowed slightly, exuding a cold light, and then, a dagger slipped from his sleeve and landed on his hand. At this time, Liang Shitai was carrying Li Shiman's body and was thinking about what he would say to the emperor when he saw him. With all his thoughts on his mind, and because Ren Zheng gave him directions and agreed to testify in front of the emperor, he thought that he had completely betrayed him. Li Jiancheng. Therefore, Liang Shitai regarded Wei Zheng as one of his own and was not at all wary of him. Feeler reminds you, 3 things to do when reading, collect and recommend. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 498. Wei Zheng found the opportunity and quickly walked behind Liang Shitai. Then he raised his hand and plunged the dagger in his hand into Liang Shitai's neck, and then pulled it out immediately. Although Wei Zheng is a first-class scholar, he fell into the trap of being a bandit in Weigong village in his early years. Together with the Green Forest heroes in Weigong village, he naturally developed a chivalrous spirit. To put it simply, he is not like ordinary literati who have no power to restrain a chicken, but is more decisive in doing things like a Green Forest hero. As soon as he makes up his mind to kill Liang Shitai, he stabs his neck with a knife without shaking his hand. Liang Shitai felt the pain in his neck and quickly covered his neck with his hands. Unexpectedly, warm blood spurted out like a fountain. Liang Shitai never thought that the seemingly non-threatening scholar following him would sneak up on him and slit his throat in an instant. Ignoring the blood spurting out, he whimpered and said, "I'll kill you." After saying that, Liang Shitai wanted to swing a sledgehammer at Ren Zheng, but the hammer he usually used in his hands was too powerful. At this time, the weight was as heavy as 1,000 pounds, and I couldn't lift it at all. As for Liang Shitai, whose throat had been slit, blood spurted out from his mouth because of his words and exertion. Then his eyesight went black and he fell to the ground with Li Shiman's body and a pair of sledgehammers on the ground. After Liang Shitai fell, Wei Zheng walked up to him again, touched his nose, and found that he was not breathing. Then he checked around the area with confidence, and after confirming that there was no one there, he left quietly. In fact, Wei Zheng did not want to kill Liang Shitai, but Liang Shitai wanted to meet Li Yuan with him as a witness to expose Li Jiancheng for killing Li Shiman. After all, Li Jiancheng and Li Yuan are not fools. They first made suggestions in front of Li Jiancheng and asked Li Jiancheng to kill Li Shiman, and then led Liang Shitai to see Li Jiancheng murdering someone and went to Li Yuan to expose it. In this way, as long as an individual can do it, all of this was deliberately designed by Wei Zheng. His purpose was to kill Li Shiman and frame the blame on Li Jiancheng, leaving Li Tang with no successor. But the problem is that once his side is exposed, Li Yuan will find a scapegoat, and Li Jiancheng will be able to successfully sit on the throne of the Tang dynasty, but he will undoubtedly die. He, Wei Zheng, did not really surrender to Li Jiancheng and was willing to sacrifice his life and blood for Li Jiancheng's great cause. Naturally, he would not be stupid enough to confront Li Yuan. Instead of doing this, it would be better to kill Liang Shitai directly. Anyway, Li Shiman is dead and the task assigned to him by the Dragon Emperor has been completed. The next step can be to implement the second plan. At the same time, Lu Feng, who was far away in Yangzhou, suddenly remembered the voice of the transfer elf in his mind. "Congratulations, Master, for killing the super general Liang Shitai and gaining a lot of transfer points." Lu Feng had been fighting with Li Yuanba for 3 days at this time. After night, after a day's rest and several days of continuous fighting, I was resting in the camp when I suddenly heard the voice of the elf who had changed jobs, and I was stunned. As Li Yuanba's pioneer general, Liang Shitai was not in the vanguard army of the Tang dynasty at this time, but he must be with Li Shiman in Chang'an, and there was only one person there who was transferred from his side, and that was Wei Zheng. To read the ununderlined version of the novel, please download Fei Lu Xiao. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 499. Lu Feng only thought for a moment and guessed that Wei Zheng must have designed to kill Liang Shitai himself, otherwise the transfer elf would not have made a notification sound. But what Lu Feng never expected was that Liang Shitai, an early-stage super general, would be killed by a scribe like Wei Zheng himself. If he had known his fate in advance, he would have died of depression. Thinking of this, Lu Feng was filled with joy. He did not expect that Wei Zheng was not only good at government affairs and admonishment, but also had such a shady ability. Lu Feng was very excited when he thought that Wei Zheng had helped him earn a lot of job transfer points. Moreover, since Liang Shitai had died at the hands of Wei Zheng, it proved that he had already started to activate it. It would not take long, or Li Shimin would not live long at this moment. In the past few days, I have been waiting for the news of Li Shimin's death, and I have been fighting hard with Li Yuanba, making Li Yuanba and Li Tang's army think that they are equally powerful as him. After several days of exciting battles between the two, it was very enjoyable for the soldiers on both sides to watch, especially Lu Buletin, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, and Huang Zhong, who learned a lot of experience and knowledge from the fight between the two of them. Rule. Of course, both Lu Feng and Li Yuanji had been conniving at Li Yuanba's challenge, not just because they were interested in their fight. Lu Feng knew that he did not have an advantage in terms of military strength, especially since all the soldiers currently under his command were the elite troops of the Dragon Kingdom, and each one of them was capital to conquer the world. If he encounters Li Yuanba in a chaotic battle between the two armies, he will definitely not be able to withstand Li Yuanba's attack and will inevitably suffer heavy losses. Therefore, Lu Feng would rather hold Li Yuanba off by himself than to let Li Yuanba get hurt. As for Li Yuanji, his thoughts were very vicious. He believed that Li Yuanba was not inferior to Li Yuanba in terms of force, so he kept letting Li Yuanba fight with him in a one-on-one fight, hoping to use the Dragon Emperor's hand to defeat Li Yuanba. After all, Li Yuanba only listened to his second brother and was a huge threat to himself and his eldest brother. If he was seriously injured, he would not pose a threat to his eldest brother and himself in a short period of time. At this time, Li Yuanji didn't know that his elder brother had already killed his second brother, and he no longer had to be careful anymore. At the same time, Li Jiancheng had fled back to the East Palace in embarrassment. However, due to the sudden appearance of Liang Shitai, the matter had been exposed, so Li Jiancheng hurriedly summoned his confidants to discuss countermeasures. Wang Gui, Feng Li, and others were all excited when they first heard that Li Jiancheng said that he had successfully assassinated Li Shimin and killed all his guards. However, when Li Jiancheng said that Liang Shitai suddenly appeared and not only killed all his guards, but also recognized that he had killed Li Shimin and would definitely report it to Li Yuan, everyone was instantly panicked. Originally, according to Ren Zheng's plan, Li Shimin was killed quietly without any evidence, but Li Jiancheng showed himself in a state of grief. Without evidence, no one dared to easily accuse the prince of killing the king of Qin. But Liang Shitai saw Li Jiancheng killing the king of Qin with his own eyes. With the witnesses' proof, would Li Yuan still let Li Jiancheng go? Even if he did not abolish Li Jiancheng's crown prince position for the sake of the future of the Tang dynasty, Wang Gui and other princes' close men would definitely be dragged out by Li Yuan to take the blame, so they would definitely die. This is what everyone is afraid of. Feeler reminds you, 3 things about reading, collecting and recommending. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 500. In desperation, no one has any good solutions. If one person proposes a method, others will immediately point out the disadvantages of this method, and the debate continues endlessly. Li Jianben was upset because Liang Shitai witnessed him killing Li Shimin. Now he saw that his group of civil servants and generals were arguing with each other but still couldn't think of a reliable solution. He was even more angry. Suddenly he thought of Ren Zheng. After all, it was Ren Zheng who came up with the method of assassinating Li Shimin. Moreover, after such a long period of contact, Li Jiancheng fully understood that Ren Zheng's talent and strategy were beyond the reach of his confidants. So he hurriedly looked for Ren Zheng in the crowd. At this time, he was desperate and had pinned all his hopes on Ren Zheng. However, Li Jiancheng looked around and found no figure of Ren Zheng, so he frowned and asked everyone, "Has any of you seen Mr. Ren Zheng? Why hasn't he come yet?" At this time, everyone realized that someone was missing and was about to send someone. When someone went to look for him, Wei Zheng walked in leisurely with his hands behind his back. After all, Li Jiancheng escaped back to the palace first, and he dealt with Liang Shitai for a while, killed him, and then checked whether there were others alive, so he was naturally much later than Li Jiancheng. Although he already knew the story of the Book of Songs, he still pretended to know nothing, frowned and asked, "Didn't His Highness lead people to ambush King Qin? What happened to be so anxious?" After he finished speaking, then he looked at Wang Gui, Feng Li, and others, frowned and asked, "What happened? Why are you arguing so fiercely?" Li Jiancheng had long regarded Wei Zheng as the last straw, and he didn't know the situation when he saw him, and hurriedly told the complete story from killing Li Shimin to being discovered by Liang Shitai. After hearing this, Wei Zheng pretended to be distressed and sighed, "How could His Highness be so careless, and how could Liang Shitai find His Highness so quickly?" After hearing Wei Zheng's words, Li Jiancheng said with a wry smile, "Originally, that there is no one in the alley. I have already killed Li Shimin, and while I was checking the survivors, Liang Shitai suddenly appeared. It is useless to say this. What should I do next? Please teach me, Mr. Ren." Wei Zheng lowered his head deliberately. Pretending to be thinking about countermeasures, Li Jiancheng waited until Li Jiancheng had already turned around twice in a hurry like an ant on a hot pot, and then he said, "It seems to me that your highness has only two ways to go now." Li Jiancheng originally saw that he was alone. His confidants argued here for a long time, but failed to come up with a feasible plan. Ren Zheng, who had high hopes for him, also thought about it for a long time without saying anything, thinking that there was no hope. However, when he was in despair, he came up with two ways without opening a word. He asked with great joy, "Sir, please tell me, which two ways are they?" At this time, Liang Shitai had been sued by Wei Zheng, and other people present except for Li Jian. Everyone is dead, which means that there is no evidence of Li Shimin's death. No one has evidence to prove that Li Jiancheng killed him. However, Li Jiancheng had already escaped before Wei Zheng appeared. He had no idea that Liang Shitai was dead and that he was very safe, so he was still very anxious to know what he should do. Wei Zheng slowly moved his finger deeply and said to Li Jiancheng, "The first way is to ask His Highness to stay in the East Palace honestly and pray that His Majesty can let His Highness go for the sake of the Tang dynasty." Li Jiancheng originally had great expectations for Wei Zheng, thinking that the method he mentioned must be very feasible, but he did not expect that the first way would be to sit still and wait for death. Not only was Li Jiancheng extremely disappointed, but even Wang Gui, Feng Li, and others shook their heads after hearing this. So before Li Jiancheng could speak, Wang Gui said on Li Jiancheng's behalf, "Mr. Ren, we are waiting for you to find a way. We are not asking you to make sarcastic remarks here. You are not calling this the first road. You are clearly asking His Highness the Crown Prince. Just sit back and wait for His Majesty to issue an edict to depose or directly execute His Highness. In this case, you will not be able to escape the involvement. You instigated His Highness to assassinate King Qin. Now that the matter has been exposed, you still have such an attitude. If it were your second, the road is still like this, so there is no need to wait for His Majesty to issue an edict. I will send you to see the King of Hell first." Wei Zheng listened to Wang Gui's words and sneered in his heart, but did not express it on his face. Seeing that Li Jiancheng did not speak, he continued, said, "The second way may be a bit radical, but it is definitely more effective than the first way, and it will work once and for all. After hearing Wei Zheng's words, Li Jianquan's eyes lit up and he motioned for him to continue. So Wei Zheng said word for word, the second way is to ask His Majesty to not stop doing anything. Before His Majesty finds out and Liang Shitai has not found the emperor, he leads an army into the palace and forces His Majesty to abdicate. No matter what, Your Majesty, whether it is fighting for the position of the crown prince or assassinating the king of Qin, it is all about the position of the emperor. As long as His Highness ascends the throne and proclaims himself emperor, holds the military power and completely controls the Tang dynasty, even if His Majesty and officials know the truth, there will be nothing they can do to His Highness. After listening to Wei Zheng's words, Li Jianquan was so frightened that he dropped the teacup in his hand. At the same time, he quickly refused. No, no, how can I do such a rebellious thing? Even if I want to be the emperor, I can just wait. After the death of his father, how can he become the second emperor of the Tang dynasty and force the palace like Yang Guang? Not only did Li Jianquan directly veto this, but even Wang Gui, Feng Li, and others were frightened after hearing Wei Zheng's words. His expression changed drastically. Even though they had always wanted Li Jianquan to kill Li Shimin secretly to ensure his position as crown prince, they had never dared to think about forcing the emperor to give up the throne. So Wang Gui also said to Li Jianquan, Your Highness is right, you can't force the palace under any circumstances. How is this different from rebellion? If word gets out, it will definitely be boycotted by hundreds of officials, abandoned by history, and will be infamy for thousands of years. Wei Zheng, seeing what Wang Gui said, Li Jianquan did not dare to do this, so he could only sigh and said, in this case, there is nothing I can do. Your Highness had no choice but to take the first path and pray that Your Majesty would be mindful of family ties and the love of the Tang dynasty for the sake of the future. Please don't hold His Highness accountable. Li Jianquan's expression changed after hearing Wei Zheng's words, and he thought about it carefully, as if just as Ren Zheng said, the second path he pointed out was indeed the best way. As long as you are the emperor, why should you care if other people know the truth? To read the ununderlined version of the novel, please download Fei Lu Xiao.